How long has it been going?
You're very welcome back to the Daily Rundown with me, Fiona Fox. I have Ian Pattinson and Drew Tosh help me with the stories this evening. Now, an Australian man has pleaded guilty to making sexual threats on social media in what is seen as a landmark victory for opponents of online harassment. He had previously pleaded not guilty, but changed his plea on the first day of his trial in Sydney. He'll be sentenced in late July and could face up to 3 years in jail. The courts had previously only used this law to try people over telephone and text message communications. Do you think that this is positive news, gentlemen? Would we like to see similar laws here? Sadly, seems to be a lot more need for these type of laws of recently.
Definitely. I mean, the whole online culpability thing, it has to be looked at, and it's never really been addressed properly. And I think, especially a story like this, where it's just grotesque. You should be absolutely imprisoned for this. And I think it might also, stop some of the online bullying and the trolling and all that goes on, because it's pretty horrible, and you sort of hear stories and stuff. Katie Price was on some show the other week, and her disabled son gets the most disgusting things said about him online. And nothing, these people are usually just hide behind some name and can't come out and, face to face. She sort of challenged them all, come and talk to me face to face and tell me why you do this. And she didn't get one response to that. But yeah, when it's getting into sexual threats and all that sort of thing, absolutely, you've got to clamp down on it straight away. But it's very difficult.
It's just a difficult one to follow up on, isn't it, as well? And it's a sad... we've talked a bit on the show recently about this kind of rape culture as well, and it does kind of start with some situations have started with the kind of hashtag banter or hashtag bants or lads or whatever it's supposed
being allowed to get away
to.
with certain things takes you a step further, and it's part of the culture. It's stuff that was there before social media.
So you don't think this kind of behaviour is new? Do you know, Ian?
I don't think it's... the anonymity makes it come out more easily, I think. Yeah. It's a sort of behaviour and attitude that's been there quite a lot in the past, always has been. And that needs to be addressed, as well as the actual ease with it. And there's a constant complaint about Twitter, is they keep doing upgrades and they keep offering new services. But one of the things that they don't seem to handle very well is abuse, and is being able to cut out the people who are abusing you. If you are unlucky enough to be the victim of a huge storm of abuse on Twitter, if you block too many people in one day, Twitter will shut your account down.
I didn't realise that, really.
It used to be the way. Maybe it's changed, but it used to be that way.
I don't even understand. What's that? Yeah, what's that achieve?
I don't know why they do it. I think it's certain types of activity are flagged. And if you're blocking lots of people in one day, that looks an awful lot like spam in a way.
Or business.
Because it's in some ways, it's the flip side of accounts that will just follow loads of people in the vain hope that most of them will follow, a number of them will follow back. It's kind of like treated like the flip side of that.
You would think, though, because technology is supposed to be so amazing and also dancing, they would have found some easy way for you to just report or retweet a tweet to somebody within Twitter, and they would immediately take that address off and cancel it.
That would require quite a lot of staff at Twitter's end, probably. And that might be why it doesn't happen. Because if it's not done, you can shut stuff down automatically and set the rules, and the rules won't always work, and the rules will sometimes catch people out wrong. To actually go through every single case, you will need a human, and that would require an awful lot of staff, given the amount of people who use Twitter.
But you think eventually there'd be some legislation that they would have to do that. You can't just get away with having such a flimsy kind of excuse as that to not protect the public against
one of those few cases where the market might actually work, where people will leave Twitter if it becomes too abusive, if some of this stuff doesn't happen.
I don't really use it. I've never.
Do you not use it that much?
Now and again, but I've never understood the fuss really.
I think I definitely peaked. I think Ian, you're quite an avid Twitter user, right? Then
I think.
Do you think it's on its?
They've said that it
downturn?
Peaked sometime last year. Yeah. It's now so that Twitter is desperately trying to do new stuff like extending the size of the tweets you can do and embedding numbers of pictures and being able to copying a whole load of names to your tweet without it taking out of your character count allowance.
Right.
However,
yeah.
that is one of the ways that people abuse, is by just copying lots of people in and sending their response to you to a whole load of people they think believe the same as them.
Yeah.
Sit in the vain hope that they'll come in on the conversation.
And it is a crazy thing because you can't get the you can't get to the same kind of levels of abuse and that with the other social media that's available at the moment. Well, I guess maybe like the Instagram and that, because it's just purely photographs. It is public. I mean, you can have your account set to private, obviously, but with stuff like Twitter, it's just so public and it's so anonymous. And it's like give people feel like they can say anything.
Some celebrities have been sort of recently, if they get a really deeply unpleasant one, they retweet it to all their followers, and all their followers will attack that person.
Yeah.
Which is actually is
as bad.
Yeah,
it possibly is, but I don't know. If it stops them for a bit or gives them a taste of medicine, it's difficult to know what else you can do, really.
But it is difficult, isn't it, if you're talking about from a legislation point of view, how to make specific laws to deal with these individual cases. I think
get the feeling that legislation is always going to be a certain number of years behind the state of the technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems
no matter what,
and
as technology develops faster and faster, that gap's going to feel larger.
If it can do anything to curb the rise of the Kardashians, then I'm happy.
Well, unfortunately, this is where the
Kardashians.
legislation doesn't seem to fit. Doesn't seem to stretch to there at all. Or it all seems to be in their favour.
They'll find. So I think if Twitter's
games.
peaked, they'll find something else. Something else will be invented. There's always new things coming around all the time. That's why I don't know. I struggle having Twitter, Instagram. All these things seem to just do the same thing, basically, to me. So I don't see why you would have them all. But if Twitter does peak and things change, some other thing will come up to replace it.
I think the sad thing about this particular case, though, is what it kind of highlights again, like I said about the bants or the that kind of culture of, nobody's actually saying that. Well, maybe some people are, but this guy in this situation made rape threats, derogatory comments against women and feminists and that kind of thing. He's not necessarily going to go on and act out anything he says, but he's highlighted that horrible mentality that.
And it could instill it in others as well. You just don't know there's the thought. The whole sort of thing about the physicality of it. No meaning no. Well, it should also count for no in a written sense as well. Sure. Because
why would like that somebody wouldn't want that horrible uninvited attention?
And it's just one step away freakily, and that woman is probably absolutely terrified.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes
a good move though.
The threat is the worst thing.
And it seems like, along with the recent kind of stalking laws that they've made adjustments to as well, it's definitely progress. But I think, as you say, Ian, it's always a little bit behind the actual tech that's out there, isn't it? Thanks very much for that, guys. Let's move to our next story. MPs have recommended that companies should be fined if they fail to guard against cyber attacks. The inquiry stopped short of suggesting that criminal proceedings should apply to employees who fail to protect people's data. The committee also recommended that CEOs' pay should be linked to effective cyber security, that it should be easier for consumers to get compensation if they are the victim of a hack, and that the government should conduct a public awareness campaign about online and telephone scams or phishing. Companies should also be fined for delays in reporting breaches into their systems. Now, does this sound like good news? We're desperately trying to find positivity in our stories here this evening. We've got a few downers. But does this sound like good news? Obviously, in light of last year's big scandals, the Talk and Ashley Madison, even though some people thought they deserved it.
It sounds like them catching up with technology again. Right. It sounds like the same thing as with what we were just saying about Twitter.
Yeah.
Yes, there should be a standard for companies when it comes to that hold your data. I'm sure banks are held to a certain standard and various other people. So the company should be held to a standard. There should be some form of ombudsman and possibly reimbursement for when they fail.
There's also a lot of companies and organisations that we are not aware have our data. You sign up for something and you might tick that terms and condition box, but there might be tiny print below it saying we will use your addresses for some other thing or sell these addresses to some other marketing
company. Are you not onto that though now? I actively look out for that
I
kind of
actually
stuff
look out for
now.
it, but it still seems to happen.
I think it happens to a lot of people though. I think you're right, suddenly you're getting text messages or whatever.
Every so often something slips through.
Emails,
definitely.
And it's sort of like, that in itself is a huge invasion of privacy, and so that we're probably all in a lot more, our data's probably in a lot more databases for organisations than we realise.
Well, you can buy access to the electoral roll.
Right.
don't know exactly how it works, but you can buy access to that, and you can say that you don't want to be on any released data from the electoral roll, but
you also don't want to go to the other extreme, do you? I mean, like, you don't want to feel like you're, kind of ducking and diving just so that your data stays safe in the world,
I think just going back to that previous story, I mean, sort of social media place is supposed to be fun. It's just turning into it's really sort of turning in on itself. And I think the rise of technology in general is always something that I've been slightly alarmed at. And everyone says I'm just an old fart because of that, but I just don't care. Because there are always going to be stories like this, and there's always going to be sort of crashes and data that's been released. And when you think of government data, weaponry data, all these sort of horrific things that, it can do so much damage if all these organisations are not protecting themselves against.
So would you be happy though? Would you happy to see a company taking responsibility? For example, if your phone bill details are leaked or your
they should take responsibility. Yeah. Absolutely, they should. It's the organisation that you're putting your trust in, that you're paying the bills to, that you're, transferring your money. I mean, I don't do online banking, and
do you not?
I
well, would you do online shopping?
Yeah, I do that. But
so someone has your card details there in that transaction.
Yeah. That's the benefit about being poor. You've never got that much in your card to worry about. But
so you're not too worried.
Every little bit counts. You lose
that
£5.
You need that more than anybody. Yeah, but I've always been very wary about. We're so reliant on them now. If there was some almighty computer crash, the world would implode.
Yeah.
Just would, and it's too late now. We can't do anything about it. But it's just.
So it's like the bottom line is just be really, really wary, isn't it? Like you said, look for that little box and either do or don't tick it, depending on what it says. Thanks very much, guys. We're going to go for our next break. Don't go anywhere. Lots more news and a very special interview coming up for you as well. See you soon.